Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wine up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for our intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is Elisa Boogaerts. Elisa is a launch manager and content coach. She helps coaches plan and execute their program launches so they can focus on spreading their genius. She has a combined 16 years of project management and coaching experience that she uses to get her clients ready to launch. We're going to discuss what that means in a second. She helps them go from feeling overwhelmed with so much to do and feeling lost of where to start to being focused, structured, and organized. Elisa, welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Hey, Deepak, thanks so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. I've been meaning to have you on for quite some time now, and you have your own podcast. Maybe we'll talk about that later too. And I'm hoping I get to be a guest on your podcast sometime in the future as well.
Yes, for sure.
I always like to start with we kind of read your bio there, your intro. I like to start take us right back to the beginning. Probably you didn't grow up as a little girl thinking I want to be a launch manager when I grow up. So
No.
maybe take us the audience back to kind of the beginning and how you got to where you're at today.
Oh, wow, the beginning. Well, I grew up with a very strong work ethic in my family. It was very much got to get a job, earn your own money. So as soon as I was 15, within I think 3 months, which is the legal working age in BC, I got a job. So I've always been working. And and then I remember
what was that first job?
It was at a fast food restaurant, A&W. I actually worked there for 5 years and ended up going into the head office for 5 years. And how I kind of transitioned to the head office was because I was in college doing every ology that there was my first 2 years, anthropology, philosophy. I'm what is this going to get me? Some Bachelor of Arts in philosophy. I don't know what that's going to do. So I was I just want to get a job. So I took this 9-month accounting assistant program, and that got me into the head office of A&W. And then from there, I got a business admin diploma, and then just kind of slowly started working my way up. And it was when I was in Amsterdam and I had an amazing manager, and she was like, "You'd be a really good project manager. You should look into that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I kind of started doing
was that still with A&W in Amsterdam or different?
No. This was I guess 5 years later. And so different company. And so then we started doing some stuff. And then I moved to London, England. And in London is when I was okay, now I'm going to do my project management career. So I got my Prince 2 certification and got into the project management field. And that was kind of the beginning of my 13 years of being a project manager. And yeah, it was just really easy for me. And I love doing it. And then I was introduced to coaching one weekend. There was this coaching institute, and I must have paid a small ticket price. It's a 2-day thing. And I was introduced to coaching, and I loved it. Life coaching. I just got the power in it. And we had these little activities we got to do with each other. And I remember sitting with this woman, and she was just all I did was follow basically the script and asking the questions and listened. And she was like, "Wow, that was so amazing. Thank you so much for I had this huge aha moment." And I was I didn't do anything but listen and ask you questions, So I was just wow, it's so powerful if you can.
Definition of coaching.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so I fell in love with it then. And then I got put onto this giant project and program, really. So I put the coaching on the back burner, and because I kind of started my business a little bit when I was in England, but then I put it on the back burner for 6 years, I would say 6 or 7 years. Moved back to Vancouver, and it was when the pandemic hit. And I think a lot of people sort of reevaluated their careers and their lives at that time. And I was I noticed that because when I moved to Vancouver, I went into software development as a project manager, and it just wasn't really sitting right. I'd worked at a couple of different companies, and I was I don't think it's the people or the companies, but I think it's the job. And I was oh yeah, that coaching thing, maybe I should think about that again. So I picked it back up, and I got my certifications and started my own business 3.5 years ago. And then introduced to the James Lamb world, where we both met, and through that kind of started really reevaluating what I wanted to do with my coaching. And because I started off doing health coaching and then confidence coaching, and I was quitting my corporate job. And I remember I had the idea with my business coach, what am I going to do with these skills? Like, how am I going to continue using these skills into something that just comes easy to me? And like, we sparked this idea of being a launch manager, launch planner. And that's kind of how it came to be. So I pivoted my business from life coaching, confidence coaching to launch manager.
Okay. So before we get into that, let's,
The whole story.
yeah, no, thank you for sharing. Just for the audience, some people, both of us came from the corporate world. Some people, some of our audience might not. Can you just like, what is project management, or what does a project manager do? Let's just define that really quick.
Basically plans out the work to be done and holds everybody accountable to all the things that they need to do and make sure that they do it on time and to budget, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think people get it. So like a big, I mean, various industries, it doesn't matter. Like some big project, there's multiple departments, people involved. There's lots of money and deadlines, and your role or that role of that department is like just keep everyone to task.
Everything to task, yeah, and get it delivered, try and deliver on time, yeah, deliver within budget, and coordinating also dependencies. Like if one person has to do something before somebody else, kind of doing that handoff, and because sometimes there can be like lots of departments involved, and so there's also sort of coordination of what needs to happen between all of them. So project
Sure.
manager.
So then we kind of left off with, you sort of transitioning your coaching business to kind of launch manager, you said. So for those who are not in the coaching industry or maybe in the online marketing, maybe just define like what is a launch, and then why would people want to hire someone like yourself?
So launch is when you have a program. It could be new or it could be existing, and you're gonna let people join it, basically. So some people do like a group coaching program, and they might only make it available 3 or 4 times a year. And so that kind of is considered a launch. And there's lots of steps that happen leading up to that, because you want to promote it and engage people to help you promote it and get people on your list and really kind of make this sort of exciting thing happening, that you are offering this program at a particular time, and that it's sort of this unique thing that people can only work with you a few times a year. And so that's kind of like what a launch is. And so leading up to that program start date, there are a gazillion things to do, and it can be quite overwhelming of how much stuff there can be to do, especially in the promotion and becoming very visible and getting people, like, because you really want to get lots of eyes on it, and run your own event even to get people to sign up to your program so you can help as many people as possible. And that I've noticed that in lots of courses that I've taken myself, the implementation, I noticed a lot of people in my same cohort wouldn't necessarily do, or they would take them 6-9 months longer than it would take me. And I was like, well, I wonder why that is. And I think it's because I'm such a doer, go-getter person, and I like plan everything myself, project manage my whole life. And so I just kind of noticed that maybe, there's lots of things going on as to why they would take longer, but one of them could be because doing all the things is just, they don't even know where to start. They feel kind of like lost in all the tasks to do, and it can just be super overwhelming. So I help people to plan it out so they can get everything done they need to get done, then to also help them focus. So it's like, okay, this week you're focusing on these things. Like, don't worry about the other 200 tasks you have to do over the next couple of months. Like, just focus on these things. And I hold them accountable to get them to actually do it, which I think can really help a lot of people, especially if they're more sort of big picture thinkers or ideas people. They're not super into the tactical doingness.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And and so if they're not into that doingness of it, then things can get, don't get done, or they get left to the last minute, and they can kind of cause all this stress and chaos. So I like to help people be a little bit more proactive and kind of do it step by step.
Okay, that makes sense. So you mentioned sort of a launch as sort of like a marketing effort, and then you also said other events. So like what other events, like you're talking about, like summits and many people have attended, have seen, and it, just exploded during kind of once COVID hit it to this day, and giveaways, things like that. That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, could be summits, could be giveaways, even just doing your own like masterclass or webinar could be an event that you do. Some people do 1-day events or 3-day events as well if they're doing a more high ticket offer. Yeah, lots of different things you could do.
Awesome. So I know we had a conversation before, and this pivot from kind of health coaching, confidence coach, to being a launch manager. There was some resistance that you shared with me. So maybe you can just maybe share a bit more about that or unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, it was hard. I think it was because when it was at the same time that I just quit my corporate job. And so it was when the idea kind of came up. And in my mind, it was like, so corporate to me, you know, there was some toxicity to it, and there was very sort of strict processes, and like everybody had an opinion of how it should be done. And it was just always a struggle, I found. And so I was becoming very unhappy with it. And so when I thought about bringing that into my own business, I was like, I don't want to bring that into my own business. You know, like to me, there was all this baggage with being a project manager, and I didn't want to bring that into my like lovely own business that, you know, I love so much, and was like quitting my corporate job to do it full time. And so, yeah, it took me a while to figure out it took me a couple months actually to really change my mindset. Also, I think to sort of recover a little bit from the corporate environment and kind of get into the groove of being an entrepreneur. And then also to switch that mindset, being like, okay, like it's not the exact same thing. This is my own business. So I get to choose the process. I get to choose who I work with. You know, yeah. And so in terms of like, you know, people that I work with, you know, therefore there won't be that toxicity. There won't be the strict processes. Like I get to choose it. And so it took me a while to kind of really change my mindset to do that, to get to a place where I was like, okay. And then once I did that, and I was like, wait, actually, that's kind of cool. Like I get to do all this, and I get to be in control and be in charge, and it's going to be like my way, nobody else's way. And then I kind of got a little bit excited about it. And then I'm kind of like geeky. I love Google Sheets and Excel spreadsheets. So then I was like, oh, I get to create this planning template. And then, you know, then it kind of got exciting. Where at the beginning I was, because I had all that kind of negative baggage with it. It wasn't going to be fun at the beginning. So I think I had to let myself process and let go and reframe, and then get excited to do the work.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. I know when I left the corporate world, I was fortunate enough that I left at the end of June, and I took the entire summer off. So like just to like decompress after 20 years of working straight out type of thing. So I totally get that.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if I should have taken a month off or something, but I just steamrolled ahead.
Well, hindsight, right?
Yeah.
So I know recently you had shared a meditation that you had created, and I actually listened to it this morning, the day of our recording here.
Oh, nice.
And I know you've mentioned before that your mindfulness and meditation and that sort of thing has like been very beneficial for you to stay motivated during tough times. So can you maybe share a little bit more or elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, so when I was talking about my career path, when I moved to London, that was actually one of at the second, I think, lowest or hardest time in my life. I had so I lived in Amsterdam and decided to move to London, and in between went backpacking for 7 months. And I went backpacking with a boyfriend, and we really should have just broken up before we even left. And so it was a difficult trip being with someone that, you know, you shouldn't be with anymore. And it was also like a mentally abusive relationship. And so when we got to London, we basically broke up a few weeks in, and we were staying at his brother's place. So I found myself in London pretty much broke because I've been backpacking for 7 months. I had some money, but not much. I was now homeless because he kicked me out of his brother's place, which, you know, makes sense. I didn't really know anybody. I had like a few sort of friends of friends that I kind of knew, and someone from high school that I hadn't talked to in like 10 years. And yeah, so I was like locally, I was like friendless, homeless, jobless, right? I didn't have a job yet. And I didn't have a network of any kind. And so that's when I really started to feel for the first time the weight of depression. And it took me a while to kind of lift myself out of that. And it was mindfulness that really helped me to do that. And I got introduced to mindfulness when I was in London, and it really helped me to lift me out of the low state I was in. And even when I decided to do the confidence coaching, Because I remember that a girl that I had met, or woman that I had met in Nepal, actually, she lived in London, so she moved back a few months after I had lived there. And she messaged me, and I remember just being on the couch and like did not want to get off the couch. You know, I didn't, it was a cold, rainy November day, and it was just like, I just didn't want to leave. And she eventually convinced me to go out, and we went for tea. And she asked me, what did I want out of my life in London? I remember just being so shocked by that. I was like, I actually don't know what I want. Like, I don't think I've been asked that question in years. And like, I didn't know who I was anymore, how I thought, or any of that. And so that, and she recommended that I meditate on it. And so that's kind of was the beginning of my sort of meditative journey. And even actually when I was in, because I spent 3 months in Nepal and 5 weeks in India. And so there was a lot of, that's kind of where also a lot of like meditation. And I remember in Nepal, there was these prayer wheels that would, I
Right.
went on this like 18-day trek. And there'd be these prayer wheels that as you got into any little village, they would sort of line up as you entered and line up as you left the village. And I remember just like being on that 18-day trek with my boyfriend and his brother and his friends. It was like these 3 alpha males. And I remember just like that was just being really tough, and walking into those villages and like spinning those prayer wheels and like doing a little chant that was on them. And so all that kind of those little mindfulness moments really helped bring me through tough places, tough times in my life. And even just recently, as we were talking about that, this pivot, right, to moving into being a launch planner, that the mindfulness really helped me with that. I did meditation and journaling and affirmations, which I also love. And one of the affirmations that I used when I was switching to launch planner was that I'm open to using my gifts and talents. And that was
Oh,
something
I love that. I love
open
that.
to using my gifts and talents. Like, yes, okay, I can be open to that. You know, what do I want to do with it? So yeah, so it's kind of been with me for a while and really helped me.
You just mentioned something that sparked something that I want to go back to from earlier in our conversation. So you were, if I remember correctly, you're working in London, and then you went to this seminar, something, cost maybe not too much money, that kind of opened your eyes to coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking is there must have been something nagging at you, or some need that like made you even want to go to that seminar in the first place. I'm just wondering what that is. I know I had that for myself, and for me it was my health journey. But what was that for you? Was there some? Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So just what made you go to that seminar?
I think it was sort of a series of things. Like when I was working, I did a class, and this man taught me. His name was Nicholas Bates, and he's actually the one who introduced me to affirmations. And it was kind of, I can't remember what the program was called. It was like a 2-day class, and we were sort of looking at also what you want to do with your job and your career development, but it wasn't from like your skills perspective. It was more like your values kind of perspective.
Mhm.
And he had all these like lists of affirmations and things. And I think it was through that I think that he was a coach. And so I was like, oh, like I didn't even know that existed. And so I kind of learned through it from him. And I don't know, I got such a good vibe from him and learned so much from him, and really got like deeper into the whole mindfulness realm of things. And and yeah, I can't remember actually how I found out about it. I must have looked for it and being like, what is this life coaching thing? And then just found this weekend. Yeah.
Oh,
Because I think by then it was maybe like a year or two, maybe a year or two into London, and I was really making that transformative journey for myself. And it was just like, oh, I can go even deeper with this. And it was just, I think sometimes as you transform yourself, your eyes open more to things, and you see things you're more open to. Like, and so I think that was
absolutely,
just kind of
absolutely. I know
maybe
that
what
saying
led me
too, like
there.
when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, or maybe it's not a person per se, but it's the thing you were looking for.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it was just sort of circumstantial. Yeah.
So are you still doing your health coaching and confidence coaching as well, or 100% pivot, or there's kind of a balancing the two?
Uh, It's basically been 100% pivot, but I love talking about mindfulness and life coaching. I still think it's so super powerful, and also like all the confidence stuff that I did, because I created a signature system that I call it the confidence method. And it was like a 10-step system. It was basically confidence made into an acronym, and ended up writing a book about it. And through that, that's kind of where I sparked the idea of doing my podcast, Authentically Elisa. So for me, that's kind of like my outlet to still talk about that kind of stuff, and then get to be interview other coaches, and still sort of be into that world a little bit, and also get to speak about it, because I still love to speak about it. So I'm not really necessarily coaching, but I do still have like my one little finger in that world,
Got it.
doing it through my podcast.
So as we slowly come to a wrap here, this is not a health podcast, but I do like to ask my guests, like, what is their morning routine, or what's some non-negotiables for your health that are important to you?
So the very first thing I do, actually, I don't even get out of bed, is I meditate. So yeah, I wake up in the morning and I go to the side of my bed, put on usually about a 10-minute meditation. And then I get up and I drink some lemon water. I basically squeeze half a lemon, organic lemon, into some water and drink that while I take some vitamins. I can take omega-3s and vitamin D and a multivitamin. Yeah, and then I go shower. That's kind of my little morning routine. And then usually, and also every morning, on my phone, I have an affirmation. So I always try and say the affirmation, as I'm doing things like squeezing the lemon and things like that. And I like to switch up my affirmations too, depending on what it is that I'm working on at that time. Like personally, whatever it is I might be working on, it could be health, it could be relationships, whatever. So I like to switch them up so that every Monday is the same affirmation. So I have like 7 in the morning that I rotate through. Yeah. And I repeat that to myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is one thing you wish you would have started earlier, or alternatively, what would you love to go back and tell your younger self?
I think I would have liked to have started traveling earlier. After high school, a lot of friends sort of went that summer, to Europe, or did a little trip before college or university. And a friend of me and a friend were gonna go, but then we didn't. And then I was just sort of waiting for her kind of like to be ready to go. And then like, just, life happens. It just never really happened. And yeah, so then it was like 5 years later. And I remember just being that was like another like pivotal moment in my life, where it was like, I was working at the A&W head office. So I had a full-time job. I was going to school at night. I owned an apartment downtown. I had a brand new car, and I was like, is this it? Is this what life is like from now on? The next thing is husband and kids. And then like my life is over, and it's going to be the same mundane thing. And I was like, well, I want to travel. How come I haven't done that yet? And by this time I was 23, 24. And I finally decided to go. Went on my first backpacking trip to Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. And then I ended up meeting a Dutch guy and went to Amsterdam. So, but I do wish that I had done that traveling sooner.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a gift for all the listeners. So can you just describe what that is?
It's called a launch planning blueprint, and it's really like a good planning companion for other coaches. So if you are looking at doing a program launch and you want some help with planning, so you can really sort of have that, not let it be so stressful, and have like know what to focus on when. I've got this guide where you're going to learn what to plan and how to plan. And I'm even going to give you I've got like templates and things for planning. And then also there's an event tracker, which is actually what I use to track my like statistics for any events that I hold.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'll just say, I was holding my tongue the whole interview. I've actually hired Elisa to work on my summit that I ran last year, and super, super helpful. Learned a ton from her. And yes, she certainly kept me and my team to task. I mean, make sure we met our deadline. So yeah, definitely, if you're, certainly if you're a coach, or I think it goes even beyond, if you're just doing any type of event, if you're in the corporate world and you're, trying to schedule like the company golf tournament or whatever it is, like these are the skills that you need. So I definitely encourage everyone to check that out. And we're going to have all of Elisa's links, not only to the gift and her social media and her podcast and everything like that. So you can definitely check her out, connect with her on the socials. I'm sure she'd be happy to talk to all of you. Elisa, is there any last words of wisdom or golden nugget you'd like to leave the audience with?
Well, I'm kind of stuck on two because one of, like, we were just talking about the whole confidence coaching thing. It's like, do what you
Well,
want to do and live the life
you
that
can
you want
have
to
two, my
live.
friend. You can have two. What's your two golden nuggets?
Yeah, one is to go after what you want in your life and live the life you want to live. It's like the one life we have, so fill it with what you want. And the other one was just on this more the planning side to, if you are planning your launch, to give yourself enough time, be kind to yourself and give yourself enough time to actually plan it properly and do things bit by bit so that it won't become this chaotic thing that you
Yeah,
hate.
you remind me of something on your last point there. I was talking with someone day before yesterday, and they're like, "Can I want to run a 3-day event, I think it was what it was, at this date." And I'm like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "No, that's you don't have enough time. I'm sorry. Like, I don't think you have enough time. You can throw all the resources you want. I just still don't think there's because Elisa, you'll agree with me. There's certain things that can only happen so fast. You can't just throw tons of resources to try and make something happen faster than it can happen." So anyway, I told that person to
Exactly.
think of a different time. But anyway,
Yeah, postpone it a little
Lisa,
bit.
it's
Postpone it, but start it now.
yeah, start planning now, but postpone when
Yeah.
it's actually going to happen. Yes, exactly. That's what I meant to say. So thank you for that. Lisa, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on the show. It's been an entertaining conversation. I always enjoy talking to you, my friend.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun. I'm super excited I got to come on your show. So thank you.
Oh, pleasure is all mine. So I'm going to throw it back to J23, who's going to guide us out. Also, don't forget to check out today's show sponsor. Thanks again for the listening to the Deepak Saini Show. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. This episode is brought to you by Optimizers Magnesium Breakthrough. This is a product I've been using with, and our family's been using for, 4 years already. What I love about it, it has 7 different forms of magnesium in it, all the forms that your body needs for all 400 processes that your body needs magnesium for. Most magnesium supplements have one form and usually a crummy form of magnesium. This has all 7 forms that your body needs. So click the link and get at least 10% off. Sometimes there's specials and you even get more. So check out Bioptimizer's Magnesium Breakthrough.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company